Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the KK Zone. As always, is I, Kara Kaufman, here with great news. Today, I have a treat for you. The Yankees start a 3-game set against the Astros tomorrow, and tonight, I had the pleasure of chatting with Nick, a real-life Astros fan. After this conversation, you will know everything you have to know about the team to be really prepped for this excellent rivalry showdown. So, we had a great time chatting. I hope you have a great time watching. Please enjoy. All right, Nick, thank you so much for joining me this evening. What a treat.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you big time. I also am a diehard Astros fan. Of course, I can't stand the Yankees, but I will give them credit because I love Babe Ruth and Joe DiMaggio, Mickey Mantle, Lou Gehrig, all the old historic. Yankees are historic. They have the championships. They're just like the team, like the Cowboys. Everybody loves to hate them, but they're so successful.
That's it. They have the amazing history. Can't deny it. And I am very used to people either loving or hating the Yankees. Either you're a Yankees fan or they're the worst. So you're in good company with everyone else in the baseball world.
I'm telling you. Now would be an Astros fan nowadays. Of course, we had our 2017 championship. People think, hey, they cheated and this and that. Look, everybody cheats. They just got caught. So
yeah.
What are you going to do?
I don't know. That's an interesting one. I was going to ask you about that, but since you started with it, I do think you're probably right. Teams are going to get an advantage any way they can. And I'm sure all the teams are doing something. I do think it's interesting because there were a bunch of investigations happening. The Red Sox got fined, the Yankees got fined for something, but nothing quite seemed to get to the level of what the Astros got.
They took it to another level. They took it to another level with the trash can banging, with the monitors in the back. I think, some teams, but again, you try to take every advantage known to man. But like I said, they took it to the extreme. They got caught, they got punished. And, obviously, you still got it. It doesn't matter. It's like with Barry Bonds taking steroids. Listen, he can take all the steroids he wants, but the bottom line is you still got to hit the baseball. If you can't hit the baseball, what's steroids going to do? Nothing. So,
what's crazy about the Astros, I think they're a super talented team, especially looking at that 2017 team. They were so good. They
were very good.
Didn't really need help, which is frustrating to watch. I feel like I'm God too. It's like, you didn't need help. What are you doing?
I know. That's kind of the other end of the spectrum. It's like, man, you had, Verlander you picked up in a trade in late July. You had an outstanding pitching staff, Altuve, Correa, Gurriel, Springer, who had an amazing postseason. Obviously they played the Yankees and it was a hard-fought battle, and then that epic World Series against the Dodgers. They didn't need any type of advantage because they already had the big-time players as it was. But, it's unfortunate that things, kind of fell how they did. Where they were remorseful enough, I don't think so. I think it's just, whenever you get caught doing something, it's like, you're just, you're remorseful enough, but obviously you did it for a reason. So
yeah, it was a little tough to watch as one of the teams that got beaten by that team in the playoffs. It was a little tough to watch the Astros players be like, we're the victims. That was a little tough to watch, I think. Yeah. But I understand. Like if for them, I imagine it was really difficult to come to terms with the fact that they were suddenly the enemy of everybody, and they were just.
And now they're the most hated team. They're probably, I'm sure, more hated than the Yankees. Literally, more hated than the Yankees.
Yeah.
And nobody likes them.
No. But eventually things will come back around again. I got to tell you, in 2015, I remember the Astros beat the Yankees that year too.
But the wild card that was on the road, Dallas Keuchel.
Yeah, Dallas Keuchel pitched a heck of a game. Tanaka was really good too, but Keuchel
Tanaka was very good.
Yeah, but I remember, obviously I was disappointed to lose that game, but I wasn't really expecting to win that game. So I watched the Astros play. I think it was the Royals in the next round.
It was. That's when the epic choke job.
Yeah.
Our governor, here's the deal. Our governor tweeted out, "Congratulations, the Astros, AL going to the ALCS and all this stuff." And boy, that backfired because that was the inning. I forgot exactly what inning it was, maybe 6th or 7th inning, when things started falling apart. And the Royals literally, the floodgates opened, the Astros lost, and then they ended up losing the series. And I think the Royals ended up winning the World Series. That was a hard pill to swallow because they went, they made it to the playoffs, which was great. They were actually, I think, a year or two ahead of schedule. But when you get that far in the playoffs, anything can happen. It was just disappointing. And but we, as an Astros fan, we want to be where the Yankees are at. I mean, consistently, not only going to the playoffs every year, but consistently going to the World Series and winning championships. Obviously, the Yankees have had a difficult time here recently. It's not the Yankees that we are accustomed to. Obviously, they've had a numerous amount of talent and pitching and everything else. They just kind of hit a rut, like the Cowboys. Cowboys haven't been good since the mid-'90s. So,
yeah. It's just funny because I remember, as to the Yankees, yes, I mean, they've got the talent. The thing about being a Yankees fan that's amazing, that I'm glad you're experiencing right now as a fan, is that your team is just good every year. And they are not going to win the World Series every year. Obviously, the Yankees haven't won in quite some time because it's hard to win a World Series.
It is. I mean, people don't realize. They take it for granted.
Yeah.
No.
But just to be able to have a team that is actually contending every year is a great gift. So
it is.
I feel like
it is. And look at the Yankees this year. I mean, just kind of like the Astros, it's been kind of a roller coaster type season.
Yeah.
For both teams.
Yeah.
It's a very weird year.
So strange. I was looking at the Astros. They're currently sitting at 15-13, which is right. The whole division is just clumped in one big clump right now.
It is.
Things don't matter at this point. But they started off like world beaters. They won 5 out of their first 6.
They did. So, they started the season in Oakland.
Yeah.
So they go to Oakland and demolish the A's. So they get off to a fantastic start. So they sweep the A's. They go to Los Angeles for the Angels. All right. They split there. So, and then they come back home and knock off the A's. So you're sitting pretty at 6-1, big start. Everybody's like, man, this is incredible. Off to a great start. We've lost Springer. We don't have Garrett Cole. We don't have Justin Verlander. But listen, this is the best start that we could have imagined. All of a sudden, you lose 6 in a row. I think you lose, 9 out of like your next 10 games. And all of a sudden, the Astros find themselves at 7-10, pretty much in last place in the AL West division. We're like, well, what the heck's going on here? They're not scoring runs. Pitching staff is garbage. And then, Kara, baseball, it can flip on a dime. Sure. And then they go, end up winning 6 of their last 7 games. Now they have won, 8 of 10 or something like that, 8 of 11.
Yeah, they won their last 3 series in a row, which is great for them.
And they're back. I mean, that's how sports is just so weird. It's so crazy where you can have this long losing streak, like the Oakland A's, for instance. They came out flat as a board, and then they won, 11, 12, 13 in a row?
13. They won 13 in a row.
It's crazy. And it's just beginning May.
Exactly. This early in the year, that kind of winning streak just changes the entire complexion of everything. I mean, the A's went from dead last to first place. It's unbelievable.
It is. It's crazy. It is very crazy. But, and go ahead.
Oh, you go.
I was going to say, the Yankees right now, they're on a good little run. They just got to have some guys that need to step it up. DJ LeMahieu, he played very well. When did you win the batting title? Was it last year or 19?
Well, last year.
Last year. He's off to a decent start. He's batting 269, 270. Aaron Judge is a guy who's got to get it going. Obviously, he's a big run producer. You're going to get home runs and a lot of strikeouts. But he's batting pretty decent, the 280s right now, so which is very good. I think the X factor for me is Giancarlo Stanton. He's a guy, they picked him up and he's gonna mash. You hope that he hits around maybe between 260 to 280. Obviously another high strikeout guy. But right now, him and Aaron Judge have been playing very, very well so far. And then I know that we were talking yesterday about your guy, Gleyber Torres. Off to kind of a slow start, but we know he's going to get it going.
He'll get there. That kid's all talent, and I am not that worried about him in the long term. Stanton and Judge, really, the offense kind of goes how Judge goes, and he looked good. Stanton also, fun fact about Stanton, last week in 7 games, he hit 500.
That's incredible. And that's what they need. That's what the Yankees need. And obviously the long ball, is always going to, help a team. But if he can just get on base and drive the balls, Statcast his mile per hour off the bat obviously is 90, 100 plus all the time. I mean, he can hit the ball hard. And if he can just be consistent, I think that's kind of the word, consistency throughout the season. Then, I mean, this Yankee team is very dangerous. They have their pitching staff. You look at them, obviously Garrett Cole, which is a guy that, man, I was so devastated but obviously they can't compete with the Yankees. They can't pay him, $324 million. He's off to a great start.
Yes.
Good thing is the home run ball is very, very low. He's only given up one home run this entire season. Corey Kluber. Huh?
Not sustainable, but great.
No. Last year he struggled. He struggled with giving up the long ball. And obviously he plays in in Yankee Stadium, which is a hitter's park. Corey Kluber here. He's a guy that when they made the signing, because Texas had him last year, and I covered Texas quite a bit, and he was obviously a disappointment because he was hurt. And I'm thinking, if Corey Kluber can get his act together and stay healthy, that's the key. If he can stay healthy, this Yankees team, if they can get maybe, 150 innings out, maybe 120 to 150 innings out of them, and he can win maybe 12 to 14, 15 games, I tell you what, Yankees are going to be really, really dang good. And so far, I mean, he has pitched pretty dang well so far this season.
Yes, I agree. I'm pretty in on the Yankees still, despite a rough beginning of the year. I think they have all the pieces in place, and how often are you going to see every guy in that lineup slumping? Probably not very often. I've already seen it once. Oh. So I'm like, I think they're going to be okay. But yeah, like the Astros, just early on, weird things happen in small samples. It's just crazy. But let me ask you this before we go back into your roster, which is interesting. But tell me first, how did you become an Astros fan? What's your origin story?
Well, growing up, so we live in I live in Southeast Texas, which is about 75 miles southeast of Houston. And so, my grandfather was an Astros fan, my father, and obviously, myself is a huge Astros fan, my brother, and, we pass it on to our kids. So we live and breathe the Astros. We used to go to the Astrodome back in the late 80s and 90s up until, it was closed. And then Minute Maid Park opened up in 2000, which was Enron Field. And they went through, I don't know how many names before settling on Minute Maid Park. But, we've always been Astros fans. Jose Cruz was a big name among Astros fans. And, they, winning, in 1980 and 81 and 86. And so we had some good years in the 80s, and the Astrodome was always rocking. And then, of course, in the 90s, we'd win the division, but obviously you would run into the Atlanta Braves with their Hall of Fame pitching staff of John Smoltz, Greg Maddox, Steve Avery, which is not a Hall of Famer, but he was dang good, Tom Glavine. And it got frustrated as an Astros fan because it seems like every time you make the playoffs, you go play the Atlanta Braves, and then you completely, you kind of Biggio Bagwell just kind of crap the bed, and you can't get over the hump. And then finally 2000s, we kind of started seeing progress. Went to the World Series. Well, actually, 04 was a year that we should have went to the World Series because we just got Carlos Beltran in a trade. We had Roger Clemens, Andy Pettit, Roy Oswalt, big time pitching staff. And, of course, they choked against the St. Louis Cardinals. 05, probably the worst team the Astros have had, and somehow made the World Series and got swept against the White Sox. And, then all of a sudden, the Astros just, started losing and losing bad. 2010, 2011, 12, 13, worst record in Major League Baseball, 3 straight years. You get the number 1 pick. You strike it, Carlos Correa, you get him. You pick up Alex Bregman in the draft. You draft George Springer, and I think it was like 2010, 2011 from Connecticut. And you get all this homegrown talent because, the Yankees, they have enough money to sign all these big free agents. Astros can't. They had to basically gut their roster, almost like Tampa Bay. You go start with the farm system and through the draft, and then add pieces, here and there. And, you look at it, 10 years later, and the formula of going through the farm system and drafting and adding free agents has helped Houston sustain, a team that is very consistent over the last, 5-6 years, that, a playoff contender and a championship contender, that is. So, being an Astros fan has been kind of a roller coaster ride as well. But all my son knows is that the Astros have been really good. They don't realize that, early 2010s was brutal to watch. Nobody even – the ratings were so bad. I think one game they only drew like a couple thousand people. It was bad. It was bad being an Astros fan. But, yeah, it's been fun, and I love being an Astros fan. I wouldn't trade it for the world. It's been ups and downs, but, again, I got to represent my team.
As you say, they did a really impressive job turning all those tanking seasons into some real talent, because the draft is not a sure thing, as we know, and they hit on guy after guy after guy who are now, a lot of them are locked up long term. Obviously, Springer left, but you got a lot of guys who are going to be there for quite some time, which is awesome to see. That makes being a fan fun.
It is. Jose Altuve is a guy that they didn't draft, but they got out of Venezuela for $10,000. And he was a short guy. And the funny thing was, they actually cut him in tryouts. He came back because of a scout was like, hey, man, I think this guy's got a little bit of talent. Let's bring him back. Brought him back, signed him for $10,000, and lo and behold, he is the face of the franchise, going to be an all-time great Astro. Will probably have his jersey retired. Carlos Correa, I remember him being drafted number 1, and he was nowhere on the radar being drafted number 1. And look at him now. Obviously, this is his final year in Houston as far as contract-wise. Is he going to stay, next year? There's going to be a lot of suitors. I would imagine the Yankees might be lining up to pluck him out, as well, because he wants to command a lot of money. And I don't think Houston, they're not. I don't think they're going to pay them. But they've already locked up Bregman. They locked up Altuve. So they are doing it through the draft, which is cheap. And you have, I think, 5 or 6 years of service time. And so they play it well. It just, whenever they get the superstar status and that beginning contract ends and now the real money begins, that's where you see a lot of talent kind of go to the wayside. The Yankees and Blue Jays, George Springer and all that stuff. So, right now you just have to live in the moment.
That's a great, I think that has to be everyone's philosophy, because it is the teams being that good. It's fleeting. No matter how much you try, there are going to be years that it's just not going to happen, because things have to go so right to achieve that level that the Astros have been at these past couple of years. But actually, speaking of which, let's talk about last year just for a second, because that was also a weird year. First of all, it was a weird year in the world. So everything was bonkers, for lack of a better word. And
it was.
I can't imagine that playing baseball was easy for anybody. But the Astros, who I feel like were expected to kind of walk away with that division pretty easily, really struggled.
Man, they struggled big time. They got off to the whole season was just a struggle to begin with. They couldn't score runs. Pitching staff was so-so. They were projected, obviously, coming off that World Series loss in 7 games to the Nats. You figured, okay, reloading. You got Verlander. You still got some big time players on that roster. Boy, they barely, literally struggled to get second place in the division. But we knew, though, in me covering them for so long, I knew that, listen, if you get to the playoffs, anything can happen.
Yeah.
Anything. They have the talent.
Yeah.
They had the talent, and it was just kind of getting this team to gel as a team together at the right time. And sure enough, as soon as we hit the playoffs, it was off and running. And obviously, that 7 games in the ALCS, and they lost to Tampa, which I thought that, man, they should have won. They probably should have won the series. It was just a couple of bad breaks here and there. But I was very impressed of where they started to where they finished. And very interesting year. But again, it's that experience that you can't buy experience. You can't, you have to live it and breathe it. And luckily they made the playoffs so many times. These young players, that's all they know. That's all they know is, big time postseason play, whether it's World Series or whether it's, in the ALCS. All they know is that big time players show up in big time games. Correa is a guy who has shown up a lot. Springer was a guy who showed up. Gurriel, Altuve, But yeah, I mean, it's just, it wasn't their year. And then as an Astros fan, you think, okay, 2021, pitcher staff looks a little bit different. Team looks a little bit different. You got some upcoming guys. Kyle Tucker, he's a young guy that's been waiting his turn. Springer leaves. You have Miles Straw coming in. And so far, hey, it's kind of on par. But, last season was weird. But, as an Astros fan, I'll take it. I'll take it. We didn't go to the World Series, but I'll take it. It was good.
It was interesting to watch. I mean, I wasn't watching a lot of Astros games last year, but you kind of see what's happening around the league, and it was clear they were struggling. And they were actually the only team in the American League to make the playoffs with a sub 500 record.
Yeah, with the losing record. I mean, how does that even happen?
Well, expanded playoffs do some crazy things. That's something I hope does not stay around. I know it's not here this year. I hope it does not make its way back, but I'm feeling it will. Because the sub 500 team has no business being in the playoffs. But last year was a crazy year, so sure. And they came in really struggling, and you're right. They remembered what it's like to be in the playoffs, and they were great. And the Tampa thing was interesting because obviously the Tampa had just beaten the Yankees in a really tough 5-game series. And then the Tampa goes up 3-0 on the Astros, and they hung tough, and they almost pulled 2004 Red Sox, but not quite.
No, not quite. It started in the wild card. So you go up against a really hot Minnesota Twins team, you sweep them. So it's like, okay, well then you go up against the Oakland A's. Hey, incredible year, and you're thinking, all right, well, they have struggled with the A's here, lately. But again, you wipe the slate clean. They go and win that series 3-1. You're feeling good, but then all right, Tampa Bay, very young team, a very young, talented team. And I mean, when your backs are against the wall, what are you going to do? You got to play desperate. And the worst thing when you're leading is to play a team that is desperate because they have nothing to lose. They lose, they go home, they get swept. And the Astros, they dug deep inside. Thought they had it in 7 games, but that's just how baseball rolls. Is it comes down to the deciding game, and sometimes the best teams don't win, but sometimes the good teams deserve to win. And Tampa Bay deserved to win, and they played lights out. But yeah, I mean, you're right. It's just a weird. The whole last year was just so weird at all.
Yeah. I'm not sure what to really take away. I mostly have taken away very little from last year. But your roster is actually, it is a lot of the same people coming back. So real quick, the things I saw that happen, and like I'm just gonna run out a couple names and tell me if anything stands out to you. They signed some guys. So they re-signed Michael Brantley, which I think was important for them.
That was big. I thought that was a big signing here. He's an average, a really high average hitter. He hits for power, but they need a guy in that lineup that can hit over 300, 320. He's batting like 330 right now, which is expected. A lot of people were telling me, well, if you had to pick between Springer and Brantley, who would you take? Well, obviously Springer, but Brantley's going to be the more affordable one. But Brantley's doing very well.
Yeah, and a lefty, which helps the lineup.
Yes.
And then you signed Jake Odorizzi, who I was shocked was on the market as long as he was. He's hurt right now, unfortunately.
You and me both. I thought that was a good signing because they need depth. They don't have Verlander. They have Greeke. They have Jose Urquidy. They have Lance McCullers Jr. Christian Javier has been lights out this year. He has pitched phenomenal. I mean, 1.75 ERA. He has been really, really good. He's a young kid that people need to look out for. He is going to be really good for many years to come. Yeah, so Odorizzi comes in, 2-year deal. We're thinking, okay, this guy's an innings eater. He could probably win 13, 14 games for us. Boy, he comes in and just got shell-shocked. I mean, just got shellacked. Yeah. Then he left, I think, after 1 out in his last start. He's injured. Obviously his track record says that, he's going to be fine. I did like the signing. I do like it. It just, he's got to get it going here. And I'd rather him be healthy in the dog days of summer, especially in July and August, September, than now. But I like that signing.
I think so too. I thought it was a good pickup for the Astros. And then you signed Jason Castro to be your backup catcher, who is fun, a lefty hitting catcher, which you almost never see.
Yeah, I mean, so Jason Castro is a blast from the past. So, former first round pick of Houston, had some pretty good years. He was an all-star, in his years here. I think it was like maybe 2013. He's there to back up Martin Maldonado, who Houston has traded like twice for. And obviously Maldonado is a guy that he will catch majority of the time. He doesn't hit for average. He has some power. But like this year, for instance, he's batting .094. So,
Struggling, right?
hey, listen, they didn't pay him to hit. They paid him for his framing and knows how to work with hitters. But Jason Castro, listen, he's batting .233 right now. He's got the pop in the bat. Hey, as long as he can be a serviceable backup, that'll be great. Because if Maldonado goes down with an injury or anything, Castro's been a starter for so long. He's been in the majors for so long. He's been very productive. So I like that under the radar signing. He's not a big name. Obviously, like say, with an all-star. I think he made an all-star team in Minnesota as well, because he signed a big contract to go from Houston to Minnesota. But he's a guy that the Astros know very well, and he's also a leader in the clubhouse. So that's another guy. What you need some leadership, especially a lot of young kids that are in Houston right now.
Yeah, that seems. I like the signing a lot too. And then last, they added some bullpen reinforcements in Pedro Baez and Ryan Stanek. Baez also hurt right now. That looks rough.
It's like COVID, injuries. I mean, you name it. It's happening. Stanek so far has been pitched. He's pitched very well. Yeah. I mean, he's got just I think a little bit over a 2 ERA. He's a guy that bullpen has always been a strength for Houston. The last couple of years has been kind of shaky because a lot of people have gone down. They don't have that true. They had Roberto Osuna as a closer, and he was shaky at times. Ryan Presley is a hell of a setup guy, but as far as in the closer role, a little bit dicey there. But I think the bullpen has done a really good job so far this year. How much can they keep it up? They got Joe Smith back. He opted out of last year because of COVID. He's a sidearm guy. He's back right now. He's been horrendous. And look, he doesn't throw hard. He's kind of a soft throwing left-hander, sidearmer. Throws about in the upper 80s, low 90s. Obviously, his track record as well will tell you that, hey, he's going to be fine, but he's off to a kind of a rough start. But some of these young kids who can throw some gas, 100 miles an hour, 99. I'm excited for this bullpen, but again, they have to be consistent because it's, again, another roller coaster, man. They go up and down. Some nights they look lights out. Some nights it's just, what in the world's going on here? And, but yeah, I mean, Stanek has been a really, really good signing so far this year.
He's looked really good. Yeah, the bullpen is always an adventure. I feel like that's, especially with the way relievers can be so volatile, and it's tricky to watch. But they have some pieces. I mean, they also have some guys I've never heard of. Like, I don't know Brian Abreu. I don't know Luis Garcia.
Young guys from the bullpen, young guys from the minor leagues that they have either been drafted or they have signed international signings. So these guys Astros fans, seen them through the pipeline. They get them at 17, 18 years old, 16 years old, and they've been around the system for a while. Hard throwing guys, big time strikeout guys. Some of them having difficulties with the walks, but most of the time they're high. They come in high leverage situations when they need a strikeout. My thing is with Houston, it's like every year they carry like one left-hander. Like this year they have like they have Blake Taylor as a lefty, as specialist. I feel that they need a couple of lefties in the pen to kind of mix and match, and especially late innings, because they are very heavy right-handed pitchers that throw gas. But like you mentioned, Brian Abreu, Luis Garcia, a couple of those guys that come in and boy, they can sling it. Stanek and those guys that are they can get the outs when you need them.
Yeah. So you already talked us through your rotation right now, which is, of course, Greinke, old reliable. Lance McCullers Jr., who's exciting. He's got some really good peripherals that make him fun to watch. And Jose Urquidy, who's been unbelievable this year so far. I mean, I have that guy on my fantasy team, and I don't regret it. I got to tell you.
No, not at all. So, okay, Lance McCullers, he just got paid a big fat contract.
Yeah.
He's pitched very well. He's had some injury problems with blisters and everything else in the past. His the strikeout to the walk ratio, a little bit high. He's averaging about 10 strikeouts a game, but he's got 14 walks on the season. And like my coach used to tell me, you cannot defend the walk. Devastating curveball and slider, throws pretty hard. Jose Urquidy, so he came on the scene in 2019 during the World Series. I forgot what game it was, 3 or 4. Man, I think it was maybe game 5. He pitched 6 shutout innings against the Nationals on the road. Yep. So that was his big breakout time. Last year he had a decent year, and like you mentioned, he's on your fantasy team. He is wheeling and dealing right now. Big time strikeout pitcher, keeps the walks down, keeps it in the pounds of strike zone. So he's a guy that to look out for big time. And again, can he keep this up? When batters, see him for a third or fourth time around, can he get those key outs, or is it when some of these pitchers kind of fall apart? So I guess we'll have to see, coming like in the summertime when, your arm kind of starts to break down a little bit because the season is a massive grind.
Yeah.
I would love to get at least 30 starts from him. That would be nice.
That'd be cool. And then you mentioned before Christian Javier, that's the guy of this position I had never even heard of.
Hey, you better pick him up on your fantasy team, right? Kara. I'm telling you. You better pick him up.
He's killing it.
So he's a guy, out of Dominican Republic. He was a reliever for a while. We all knew he had the stuff to become a big-time starter, but obviously the starting rotation was a logjam. And so now, with no Verlander and Garrett Cole gone, so there's a spot opening up. And then Odorizzi, he's injured, so it's like, okay, guy, let's see what you can do here. Let's see what you can do. Well, I mean, he's thrown. Here's the problem with him. He needs to get stretched out a little bit more. He's averaging about 5 innings. I think he had a 7-inning stint a couple of starts ago. He needs to go a little bit deeper into games. He's been given the Astros. Here's the crazy thing. At one time, 3 straight games of 3 straight shutout, baseball. 5-inning, and a 7-inning, which is incredible. But again, his pitch count, they're trying to keep his pitch count low. I would like to see him go at least 6 innings to save the bullpen. But, man, he has been phenomenal this year. Phenomenal.
That is so cool. And talk about rising to the occasion, because you have some guys down and a guy coming up and giving that kind of performance repeatedly. That is a huge boost.
Yeah, I mean, it's always that old analogy, anybody who plays sports, next man up. And somebody gets injured, hey, next man up. Who's gonna rise to the occasion? He's done an incredible job. Yeah. And I feel that, especially the games that he pitches in, the offense has come alive, and they're getting him run support. That's a big thing, too. Getting run support. I remember Roger Clemens, for instance, 2005, that year they went to the World Series against the White Sox. I think he had his first 5 or 6 starts. He had like a 1.50 ERA, but he was like 1-4 or something like that. Because the run support was awful. They were giving him like 1 to 2 runs a game. And they were losing games 1-0, 2-1, 3-2. So the offense is giving them run support at what they need. And because at any given time, this offense can explode 5, 6, 7 runs.
Yes, the offense is largely what I remember from watching the Astros beat the Yankees a lot. And it is quite fearsome. I mean, your starting infield is crazy between Yuli Gurriel, Jose Altuve, Carlos Correa, Alex Bregman. Those guys can all hit for power. And a lot of them can hit for average too. Those are jokers. Like that's now to me, the outfield is where it gets interesting. Because as we've referenced a couple times,
yes,
George Springer was the one big loss from the team.
Massive.
Massive loss. Great player. And you have Brantley, but then other than him, it's some kids, right?
You're right. So, you got Michael Brantley, and then you have Miles Straw, and you have Kyle Tucker. So Kyle Tucker is a name. He's a number 5 overall pick in the Major League draft. And actually, it's the same draft where Alex Bregman got drafted in. So Bregman was number 2. Kyle Tucker was number 5 out of Florida. Young kid, smooth stroke, hits for average, hits for power. Obviously, the last couple of years, he's had a couple of coffee in the majors, and he has struggled. Big time. He could not get adjusted to major league hitting. He's swinging at everything. Obviously, curveballs and sliders. were his kryptonite. Last year, towards the tail end, started getting together. Postseason, started playing really well. And then now with George Springer gone, it's like, okay, kid, you know what? It's your time to shine. Obviously he is not hitting the ball well at all right now. His power numbers are there. He's leading the team in home runs. But he's a young kid who we know that Astros going to give him every opportunity to succeed. They're not going to send him back to the minors. He's up for good.
Yeah.
So that's a guy where he can be a star in Houston for many years to come. He just has to figure out hitting. Miles Straw, another guy in the system, doesn't hit for average, gets on base a lot, but his asset is he's got plus speed. He is one of the fastest guys in Major League Baseball. Steals a lot of bases. He's got 5 this year, which leads the team. His thing is he's got to develop some patience. Obviously, he's at the bottom of the lineup for a reason because he doesn't hit for average. He strikes out a lot. But once he gets on base and starts to learn how to take some pitches, go deep into counts, and he kind of reminds me of Willie Taveras back in the day, early 2000s, mid 2000s for Houston. Speedster guy. He would, drag bunt for hits or have a lot of infield singles, but he wasn't a big power guy and didn't hit for average as well. I mean, he can be a huge threat. Problem is he's got to get on base. So those are the only 2 things that concern me about Houston, where Kyle Tucker, he hasn't proved himself, but we've seen some flashes of what he can do. Miles Straw is his first time to get an opportunity at center field because his fielding is tremendous. Great glove, just a pitiful bat. So I guess you got to take one with the other. But that's if one of those 2 can break out, or even if Miles Straw can hit like 250, that would be a huge win for Houston.
Yeah. And the thing, you said something very, very true about young talent, which is at a certain point, they've got to prove it in the majors. Going back to the minors won't help because they've already conquered that level of pitching.
Yeah.
You're going to actually be a major league pitcher. You got to see a major league curveball.
You made a great point there. They've already, and it's like they go down, boom, 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 boom. They get on a tear when in their 5, 6, 7 game assignments. You go, they're coming up. Oh, he's at 430 in the last 7 games, and then it's like, okay, well, what's he gonna do against major league pitching? And then sure enough, it's back to, but it's confidence level too, because you look at Alex Bregman. Alex Bregman, I think, went 0 for 22 or 0 for 25 when he entered the majors. Big time prospect, everybody, all eyes were on him, number 2 pick. And then once he figured out how to, hit the breaking ball, because anybody can hit a fastball. Once he figured out how to hit the breaking ball and when to lay off pitches here and there, boy, I mean, he's an MVP type candidate now. I mean, he is on a roll. It takes a little bit for some of these young players because I think some of these major league teams, you put them in and all of a sudden it's like, well, he's not producing, let's take him back out. And like Byron Buxton, he came, 2020, number 1 overall pick, same draft as Carlos Correa. And it took him years, 3-4 years to kind of get it going here. And people were going to label him a bust. Now, last 2 years, he's played really well. So you just got to give these young kids a chance and let them succeed.
Yeah, I think that's right. And Buxton too was hurt.
And he was. That's another thing. He's just health-wise. He's got to stay healthy. They got so many. That's like with Judge and Stanton.
Yeah.
Boy, they can help your team so much, but they can't help sit on the bench when they're injured.
So true. Yeah, the Yankees are doing a fun thing where they're just resting Judge randomly now, and the fans hate it. I don't know why. Like, whatever works. If he can play 4 times a week and be healthy, then okay, we should take that instead of him missing 5 months and helping us not at all. So
that's true.
I'm with you.
That's very true.
Yeah. So the Astros, for me, are a very scary team to play. Always, I think they're a pretty well-balanced team. And yeah, they're not clicking on all cylinders together yet this season, but that's the kind of team that any given day, they can beat you a number of different ways. So my question to you is, what do you think for this Astro team are kind of the best and worst case scenarios in this season? And where do you see them ending up?
Well, let's see. Well, I see them ending up winning the AL West division. I mean, the only teams basically that are going to challenge them is Oakland. I don't think Oakland can sustain We saw a couple of years ago that, they got on a hot streak and then they would fade, especially in August, September. They got a really talented team. I don't think they can sustain it. Texas, Texas is bad. I mean, I don't see Texas being a contender for another maybe 2 or 3 years. Seattle, well, let me look back. The Angels. Angels are very interesting. They got the best player in the world in Mike Trout. And I feel bad because he reminds me of like J.J. Watt of the Texans. You're wasting his Hall of Fame career being on a mediocre team. They signed a lot of people in free agency. I like Shohei Ohtani. I love him. I love how he pitches. I love how he hits. I mean, they got some pieces together, but it seems like what you get is just an average ball club. And that's what they are, is average this year, 13-13. Bill Parcells once said, you're as good as your record indicates. They're average. Seattle Mariners, a team. All right. Well, they got some young talent mixed in with some really good veterans. The pitching staff is pretty decent this year. They're in second place. All right. Well, we've seen this before. Can they sustain it? Because once you hit June, July, they start going down. Because once you start getting in the division, teams start beating each other up. So the only team that I feel that is a threat is Oakland.
Yep.
They're hot. Can they get on a roll? I think when it comes to September, I think the Astros will leapfrog them and win the division. Okay, best case scenario, they win the division. Do they have the talent to make the World Series? Hitting-wise, yes. Pitching-wise is what I fear. Not Garrett Cole. Zach Greinke. All right. He's been pretty decent. He's been pretty good for Houston. Do I think he's a legit number one starter? And does he still have it? I don't know. The jury's kind of, I don't know. I feel that he's not a big-time number one starter like Verlander. Verlander, he's going to come in, throw gas, and, he's going to give you 7-8 innings, strike out like 10, 12 batters. Greinke, very slow, methodical, go 7, 6, 7 innings, especially when the Astros uniform, like in the postseason, going like 4, 5, 6 innings. So he kind of scares me. Christian Javier, another young guy. Can he sustain all this stuff? So that the downside of it is these young pitchers, can they keep it going for a full season? Because they don't have, 25, 30, 35 starts from their belt. I mean, some of these guys, 18, 20, 22 starts. Lance McCullers Jr., he's always hurt. Is he a guy that's finally puts it together and starts 30-plus games? So I think best case scenario, if you get Greinke, if you get Lance McCullers Jr., that starts over 30 games. So both of those guys with 30-plus starts. Christian Javier, about 25. Odorizzi gets on track. He throws about 22 to 27 games. That will propel them. I think they can do some damage in the playoffs. Obviously, on the flip side, injuries, COVID. If Altuve or Correa, Correa is always hurt. That's the reason why Astros don't want to throw him $200 million. He's got back trouble, leg trouble, arm trouble. Best case scenario, I think they can go to the ALCS. Worst case scenario, they finish like in third place because of injuries and COVID. Yeah. And, we're kind of right back where we are as they missed the playoffs by 2 to 5 games, and it's back to the drawing board.
Interesting. That tracks to me, because to me the Astros look like a playoff team. I think I would probably pick them to win the division, although I think you're right that Oakland can be kind of all over the place.
They're sneaky. They're a sneaky team.
They are sneaky, and they were really good last year. It didn't come to fruition for them in the playoffs, but prior to that, they had a great year, and they have a lot of really exciting players. Seattle, yeah, I feel like Seattle always starts really hot. They're a hot start team that then
they aren't
that good.
I mean, like the Rangers, I know what even gets Rangers. Rangers are kind of like,
no,
they're just kind of throwing veterans with a lot of rookies and young talent, which they will, I think they will be back here in a couple of years. But the head scratcher is always the Angels. It's like, man, the Angels are good enough to make the playoffs.
Yes.
But for some reason, they fall flat on their face. And, they got Anthony Rendon and Mike Trout, 2 big-time sluggers. And then you got to throw in Ohtani as well. Yeah. You got 3 big-time hitters in there. And then you have some other guys, other key pieces. But it's like the pitching falters at the end. The hitting falters at the end. It's not sustainable.
To me, looking from the outside, they've never been able to have enough good pitching, specifically pitching, to support Mike Trout's Herculean efforts to carry that
I
team.
know, and I still think he needs to just get traded and go to a contender because the travesty would be he finished plays his whole entire career without even making like the playoffs, winning a playoff series, not even going to the World Series and winning a title. He's too good of an athlete and a ball player to be ringless.
I want you to get to the playoffs. I want it to happen. I think that would be fun.
No.
They have such an enjoyable team. Like you said, I love watching Ohtani. He's a unique unicorn special talent. Rendon is legit. They've got some guys. They just need, hopefully it'll click. But they're in a tough division too because they've always got the Astros ahead of them and the A's play tough. So it's tricky.
It just comes down to staying healthy. Staying healthy is a key. And then how are you going to do the dog days of summer in the summertime?
Yes.
When the heat gets up, the ball's juiced, and, you start playing, man, you might get, 3 days off the entire month. You start, you go on these long, road trips from East Coast to West Coast or vice versa. And you start to kind of wear it down a little bit because some of these young guys like Kyle Tucker and Miles Straws with Houston, they haven't played a full 162-game season starting wise. The minor leagues are different. You can play 120, 130, but those extra 30, 25 to 30 games, especially in September, October, and you just start getting worn out, and your body starts breaking down. How well are you going to play when actually you need it the most? Deep when the division's on the line or playoff berth is on the line, can you come through, or is your body going to break down? Is it mental? Like, man, I am just exhausted. I never played this much. I'm exhausted, and you're looking for the off season to recover.
Yeah. Well, you know what? That's going to be one of the fun things to watch about this Astros team is will all the veterans who've been there, who are still young, but who've been to the playoffs, be able to kind of help the youngsters navigate that. Because I think it could happen. I'm interested to watch it happen. I think it'll be a fun season for them. I know we got to wrap it up kind of soon, but before you go, I'd love to change tacks a little bit and ask you about Minute Maid Field, because I have never been. I actually did go to the old Astrodome when I was a kid.
Did you really?
Yeah. It was, I don't remember very well. It was before I was a big baseball fan. But I was there on vacation. But the Minute Maid Park, watching it on TV, looks gorgeous.
It is.
Tell me what you love about your park.
So Minute Maid Park, as an Astros fan, you have the Astrodome, the first indoor stadium and air conditioning, all that good stuff. So you never had, worried about rainouts or anything like that. So then when they built the new ballpark downtown, it is state of the art, retractable roof. You got the Houston skyline in the backdrop. I wish they would open the roof a lot more, but I understand because it's so dang hot in Texas. And the humidity in Southeast Texas is stupid. Especially coming up, we're in May, and it was like 85, 86 degrees today, and the heat index was like in the 90s. And when it gets to the summertime, when the temperature is 100, 105, and the heat index is 120, nobody wants to sit out in that baking sun with the roof open and just melting. But I'll tell you what, if you've never been, they used to have Taos Hill. Center field used to have a big old ramp going up. So that was for Tal Smith, the former president of the Astros back in the day. And so they named it after him. It was like 400 and God, I forgot how it was deep. Centerfield was deep, and it was a unique thing to the ballpark. Obviously they have a short porch in left field at 315 and everything else kind of a goofy, I love all the quirkiness stuff. So then like last year was the first year they did away with Taos Hill because a lot of people complained, especially the players. They moved the fence in, and now they have a big old green backdrop with ivy, and it's got the Astros logo and all that good stuff. Anywhere you sit in that ballpark, great seats. Close to the fans. They have an upper deck in right center field. It's only 2 decks. They got 3 big decks circling around Minute Maid, and it's rocking, man. I'm telling you, it's a great deal. I love when players hit home runs on the roof's open because they leave the ballpark. The coolest thing though is the Crawford boxes in left field. So my son and I, we went there in 2019 against the Pirates. first time we've ever sat in the Crawford boxes because it's very limited seating. There's not a lot, and you're right in left field. You get to catch a lot of home runs during BP, but then also it's like, man, right in the action because those balls are coming like missiles, especially when they hit home runs. So I would say if you go to Minute Maid Park, the place to sit would be the Crawford boxes. That's a difficult ticket, but if you go, if you schedule your game that you want to go to pretty far out, more than likely you'll get a ticket. I forgot how much it is now because it seems like every year they're raising ticket prices because they're good. When they were terrible back in 2011, 12, 13, Kara, I'm not even joking. You can buy a ticket for $1 up in the upper bowl section for $1. And you could actually probably go down to like the 300 levels and sit like in a $20 seat for $1. That's how pitiful they were. But I'm telling you, you need to go out there. They pay homage to the old Astrodome, the scoreboard, when they make a home run and all the bulls and the quirkiness stuff there. But it's a phenomenal ballpark. It's crazy that it's already 21 years old. It doesn't look like it. They've done a lot of upgrades to it, a lot of suite and fan interaction stuff. But I'm telling you, it's one of the best around.
I'm excited to go there. They also have that train. That's a
yes, the train. So let me tell you about the train here. So the train, it's supposed to be like, so they have actual pumpkins in the train. It's supposed to be like oranges for, Minute Maid Park for orange juice. So anytime a player for the Astros hits a home run, the train will go and, they shoot off fireworks. And they do have a train conductor that's up there. It stays in the entire game. And so it goes back and forth, and that's really, really cool. They also have the Conoco gas pump in left center field, and that keeps track of every home run, all-time home runs at Minute Maid Park by an Astro. And I forgot how many home runs they've hit since 2000. It's a lot. So that's another pretty cool deal where they have a Conoco gas pump in left center field and keep tracks of the home runs. A new thing that they have added this year is an Astros Hall of Fame. Which is in left field as well. It's actually behind the Crawford boxes. And like Bagwell, Biggio, Larry Durker, Jose Cruz, they're among the guys that have had their jerseys retired. So they now get like the Hall of Fame, like in football where you get a gold jacket. They get an orange jacket. So that's another pretty cool thing they have added to Minute Maid Park as well. So you got the train, you got the gas pump, and now you got a Hall of Fame all right there in like left center field.
I will check all of it out when I go. And then the other thing about the park I have to ask is I ask everybody this because besides baseball, which I obviously love as the reason to go, I love the interesting food and beverage items. So is there anything that is specific to Minute Maid Park that is like fun that one must eat or drink when one goes?
Man, let me think. Well, first of all, you need to get the all you can eat.
What?
So the all-you-can-eat section, it's an upper deck, right field, $30. You get from, I think, an hour before the game up until like the 7th inning, all you can eat. So it's like hot dogs, burgers, nachos, peanuts, popcorn, drinks. All that is unlimited for $30. I mean, it is stupid. So I don't know if the Yankees do anything like that.
No.
If not, they should. I mean, so the upper deck in right field, and there's like 2 sections. It's always sold out. Always sold out. So what the Astros have, obviously, Texas got a lot of barbecue. So Jackson Street barbecue, really, really good. Obviously, a lot of Mexican food because right here, Tex-Mex. They have a couple of Tex-Mex restaurants. But I'm trying to think of exactly because I know that like the Rangers, they have like this freaking 2-foot-long hot dog, that they've kind of with the new Globe Life Park or Globe Life Field over there that they kind of rolled out. I'm trying to think exactly what were the new. They had a couple of new items, and I'm gonna have to look it up here real quick. But obviously they have the big chili dog, barbecue, the beef fajita, shredded beef, nachos.
Honestly, barbecue and Mexican make both of me very happy. Those sound delicious. Now, I wonder this about parks named after food and drink brands. Like, do they feature Minute Maid products?
You know what? I don't. Well, I think to a certain degree. So yeah, they've gone from Enron Field, which they had to actually get rid of Enron because of the Bernie Madoff and all that stuff. All that was a whole mess in itself. They went to Astros Field. They went to Union Station, ballpark at Union Station, which that was another train wreck thing, naming rights. And then they went to I think something else, and then to Minute Maid Park. But I think they do feature Minute Maid orange juice around the park. I don't know who wants to drink orange juice.
Yeah, I guess who goes to a game to get orange juice?
Yeah, who goes there to get orange juice? So I'm looking at the food here. So it says that last year they had, it must be new for this year because last year they couldn't have fans. Tater tots covered in beef pico de gallo and queso or jalapenos with bacon and buffalo chicken. Obviously, hot dogs with brisket, with beef picadillo and mustard, and then a couple of kind of a Mexican food items. So this is they rolled out this menu last year, this new foods, but obviously this year is the first time that anybody could actually eat it.
Yeah, it's like fun fusion to me, and something that is very Texas. All the sides of Texas combined in one dish. That sounds perfect.
And you got to get the yard margarita. And get the swirl. So you get it's the regular margarita, strawberry, regular strawberry. It's a yard about that big. You got to get it.
Okay,
it's like $12, but hey, it's worth it.
Dude, every beer at Yankee Stadium is like $16. So that sounds great.
I think I remember that when I went out there because I went to go see them against the Royals, and it was pretty darn expensive.
Yes, it is. I mean, I love New York, but whew.
But you go there but it's historic though. You go there for the atmosphere, for the historic of Yankee Stadium, and it's the Yankees. I mean, listen. Yeah. You're going to go to the Yankees game. You're going to spend money like the Cowboys. You're going to go to the Cowboys game. You're going to get entertained.
The one thing we don't have at Yankee Stadium, though, is a mascot. And I think you might have my favorite mascot in the game in Orbit.
Orbit is awesome. I mean, so over the last handful of years, he has been known to play all kinds of pranks on players. Whether it's the Marlins coming in town, he has his fishing pole trying to hook a player. Throwing pies at people. I forgot who it was a couple of years ago that he had some beef with. I don't think it might have been the Angels. I know it was in division that Orbit was always messing with. I know he used to mess with Adrian Beltre a lot when he was with the Rangers, messing with his hat and his head because he hated his head getting rubbed. Yes. And but yeah, Orbit is the best. You'll see him all over the ballpark, on the field, on the dugouts, in the stands, in line while you're getting something. He's a huge attraction. I mean, one of the best mascots around, besides like the Philly Fanatic. Philly Fanatic is always a great one.
What I love about Orbit is, first of all, as an Astros is kind of a random team name. So tying in the sort of outer space aspect, but also the NASA aspect of Texas, which makes a lot of sense. They create this lime green outer space alien with these antennas that end in baseballs. That is so goofy and is so fun. And his personality he is a super prankster. I think my favorite one was I remember watching this one day. He was having a tea party before the game down the third baseline, and David Ortiz, when he was still playing, came over and sip the tea with Orbit to be fun. And then Orbit tried to put a tiara on his head, and Ortiz ran away. It was great.
Last year during COVID, he was the only one running around in the ballpark. So he had this big old giant mask running around and was telling people be sure to mask up, especially for this upcoming season. And but he's literally the best. I know it's a treat for adults, for kids. He's one of the prime attractions of Minute Maid Park.
The last thing I learned about him today, though, is that prior to him, there were several other mascots, but my favorite of them was called General Admission, which is A, a hilarious pun that I enjoy, but B, apparently General Admission was killed off by Orbit. He was shot with an alien taser.
Oh, my.
Took over.
You know what the crazy thing is? So, like the Astros, so when they first when the Astros first got started, especially moved in the Astrodome, like in 1962, they actually had like astronauts. They would go and rake the field and all that other stuff. And, so that was very unique for the Astros. And like I said, they've had all kinds of different Astros or different mascots throughout the years. But, Orbit he has stuck. And, they had Junction Jack. He was like kind of a bunny rabbit whenever they moved to Minute Maid Park. And I think it's been almost like 10 years since he was retired. I mean, he was like a big old bunny rabbit, which that was kind of weird. He would kind of run around, and he was a good little thing there. But like I said, Orbit has been a huge staple in the Astros organization for so long. Obviously, he took a break for a while, and then he was brought back, right after Junction Jack. And I'll tell you what, they better not, take him out again or have him retire for a handful of years, because he is a huge, huge hit.
He is, in my humble opinion, he's probably the best mascot going. So that's my other goal when I make it to Minute Maid Park, is to meet Orbit, because he's kind of my hero. So I'm excited.
You have to get an autograph, get a picture. I mean, he's always smiling.
I will. Okay, Nick, I think you probably have to go. You have a very early morning, and I have kept you up way past your bedtime.
No, you're fine. Listen, again, I appreciate you. I watch your stuff. Listen, you do a phenomenal job. I love your bubbly personality. You are so fantastic, and I appreciate what you do. And I'm being serious, though. When we talked last night, I'm telling you, if you ever have a chance to be on local TV as a sports announcer, sports anchor, or anything like that, you're super smart. You have the personality to do it. Well, you have the personality to do it, and I think you're going to be a superstar. You're going to be on your way. So if this whole stage manager Broadway stuff doesn't work out, give me a call. We'll get you on TV.
Nick, you are the best. I am blushing my face off right now, but I that's so sweet of you to say. And I had the best time chatting about you and learning about the Astros. I
love it.
I'm psyched for this series and for this season. We'll see.
I know. So it starts off big Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday series in New York. Obviously, they'll probably get a nice cold reception. I was going to say warm, a nice cold reception, and which they should. And it should be an all-out war, because these are two teams that can literally, we might see them, if things go according to plan, in the ALCS. That's what we hope.
I mean,
that's what we hope to see.
Every odd-numbered year since 2015, the Yankees and Astros have met in the playoffs.
That's crazy. That's a good fact.
Won yet, but there's always tomorrow.
It is. It's going to be a great pitching matchup. It's going to be prime time, so all eyes are on this team here. And it's May. I know it's early, but this is a preview of what we can basically expect maybe in September, October. It should be a good series.
I'm with you. I can't wait to watch it, and we'll have to touch base after and see how it all goes.
Oh, no doubt about that. Like I said, much love to you. I appreciate you. And if ever you need me to come on and talk about the Astros or just baseball in general, I love baseball. Let me know. I'm down for it.
Thank you, Nick. This has been amazing. Well, you have a great night, and we will talk again soon.
Thank you, Kara. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you. Bye.